Hello and welcome. I'm joined today by Ali Wright from Microsoft UK. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ali. We really appreciate it.
Hi, John. Nice to see you.
Likewise. So, you are the SMB director at Microsoft UK, and that puts you in a position where you are, I imagine, talking to small and medium sized businesses right across the country about AI, probably more than most other people in the country. So, from those conversations you're having, what's the vibe at the moment? Where are most of those businesses at right now when it comes to AI and AI adoption?
Good question. So it varies hugely. Some are curious and are experimental phase, but others are completely transformed how their business runs based on AI and thinking about an AI first adoption. What we see typically, though, is most businesses going on a bit of a journey. So they start with AI as an assistant and I think we've all got used to that concept of an assistant through our kind of home and consumer lives. It's, AI in the workplace as an assistant, either writing emails, transcribing calls, that type of thing. Then, as they get more confident, I see that they kind of bring in agents, and it's often pre-built agents, for example, that can do research for them, facilitate a meeting for them, and it really supports, humans doing the work and the flow. And then finally, we see as their competence grows even further and as the technology kind of changes rapidly, we're starting to see what we call autonomous agents, where agents take on end-to-end business processes with human oversight and sign-off. It could be onboarding new team members, it could be managing a supply chain process. And so, yeah, typically we see them going on this journey, and they could be in any one phase at any one time. But yes, most of them are excited and are starting that journey. So, yeah, we see a range of behaviours, I'd say.
I'm sure. And do you have any kind of insights or feel any data on the kind of numbers around the levels of adoption in any of those areas you just discussed?
Yeah, there's been some research, and Microsoft has done some research in this area itself. And again, it varies across sizes
Mm.
of organizations where they have formal IT departments that might take a lead on AI and AI adoption. So there we see it kind of in the 20+% mark. Kind of smaller businesses, it's kind of around the 19 to 20%, but that's changing rapidly, I'd say. And what we're seeing more so is actually there's a real appetite and desire to get involved with AI. Actually, what we're seeing is that workers are bringing AI into the organization, particularly where they don't have a prescribed tool or guidance from their organizations. We're seeing around 71% of UK workers saying they're bringing consumer grade AI into their workplace, and actually 51% are continuing to use it weekly. Definitely the appetite and I think the adoption is there, but the biggest gap we see is really where I think organizations think they can bring AI in and deliver value, but without any behavioral changes. And we saw that in our own adoption, right? It's not necessarily about the technology or the platform you choose. It's much more around that human and that change management that the people go on, and how people and processes and technology come together to drive transformation and value for organizations. So I think the biggest point for organizations I'd recommend them really think about is that change management and that adoption. How are they really going to evolve roles and where the value of work happens with AI and the flow of work? So, yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm kind of grinning like a Cheshire cat when
Hmm.
you talk about this is we hear this on every single conversation we have at
Hmm.
the moment.
Yeah.
So I had several people doing interviews with me last week, and every single one of them made a really big point about the fact that it is all about that human, that people piece. How do you bring people on board from a skills, from a knowledge, from a culture
Hmm.
perspective?
Yes.
And that's really seems to be the key to AI transformation, AI adoption, however you want to
Hmm.
phrase it.
Yes, definitely. And obviously, AI literacy from a skilling perspective is super important, like learning to work with the tools. But then also, it's those human skills, those soft skills that we don't always focus on, that are also being elevated by AI. So, for example, critical thinking, bias detection, emotional intelligence and judgment. If you're creating a piece of work and creating net new content as a result of working with generative AI, you've got to have some view on, is that good, bad, or indifferent, right? And so definitely those human skills are even more important, I would say, in the age of AI. And that's again an area that I would recommend any business really think about alongside their AI literacy.
I've found it fascinating personally how many people these days will do a piece of work using an LLM generally, and then
Hmm.
just send it without any form of editing or checking. Just kind of
Yes.
take it as read, and but it kind of blows my mind. It's like you wouldn't do that if a human gave you a piece of work. You would check it. So why wouldn't you do the same when a machine does it? It's bonkers.
Yeah, it's thinking about, it's about getting you to the first draft. It's about helping you not have that blank page syndrome. It's like a helpful intern, and we all know that AI can make mistakes, right? We've seen cases of that. But I think it's around, well, how do you choose AI tools that give you referenceability so you can go and double check the rest to that information that is serving you up? How do you go and read through it to make sure I guess it complies with your business tone that you want to have, with the brands that you want to portray in the marketplace? And certainly, I think one thing to think about from a governance perspective for all businesses is, where do you want humans to take those decisions about what is served up? And certainly if things or, content or systems are going to engage with customers, maybe with your supply chain, certainly with finance, important things like that, your people, humans need to be the final sign off and the final arbiter of things. So that's why Microsoft has called technologies things like co-pilots, because we're not taking humans out of the loop. It's about augmenting human ingenuity, capability, and creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I personally completely agree with that. It's about, like you say, an augmentation of human behavior.
Yes.
Um, allowing AI machines, computers to do the kind of the general work that humans don't need to be doing, the repetitive stuff, and that's where autonomous agents come in, to allow then humans to be more strategic, more creative, more social,
Hmm.
about building
Yeah.
relationships, whatever it might be, that humans are
Hmm.
just, tend to enjoy more and are, at
Hmm.
this moment in time, way better than machines at.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but we shall see. Do you think there is a gap between what small and medium-sized business owners and leaders think AI will do for them and what it actually does?
Yeah, I guess it comes back to that point of, it can only create value for you when you're really clear on, like, how are you going to use it. Often we focus on AI as I want AI in my business, I want to automate a process, I want to do this, without thinking through the steps before that. Like, what are the problems you're trying to solve? But we always try and bring customers back to a framework of, how are you going to engage your employees better if you've got them? If you're a small business and you're the owner and you're the only person in your business, is your time, right? It's, how do you give people the joy of work by taking away some of those things that they don't enjoy in their day-to-day work? And how do you give them time back to think about, the business, work on the business, do the strategic thinking, spend time with customers? Number one is about engaging your employees better. Number two is really thinking through, how can you engage and delight your customers by, increased services and capabilities that are increasingly personalized to them as customers? Whether it's through engagements with chatbots that allow them to return their dress quicker, for example. It could be anything like that. Then there's obviously business process re-engineering and thinking through, well, where have we got processes in our business that are inefficient, that are spending duplicative, that we're spending far too much time on, and where we could take time and cost out of our business through re-engineering the process. And then lastly, it's around, well, how can I innovate faster? Maybe it's bringing new products to market quicker because I've done research. Maybe I can enter new markets because actually using Translator, I've got the capability to engage in different languages. There's ways that you can use AI to think about innovation, IP, and entering new markets. And so kind of those four categories of your employees, your staff, your processes, your innovation really come back down to the fundamental, what am I trying to achieve with AI, rather than AI is the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. A couple of things you mentioned there, certainly identification of a problem that AI can
Hmm.
potentially solve is something that we talk about a
Yeah.
lot.
Hmm.
And that point you make around innovation, especially when it comes to language, I was chatting to someone who is a SMB business owner last week, and they have a service offering, and they've switched on the ability to talk to their customers in any language around the
Hmm.
world using
Hmm.
AI.
Yeah.
And they've seen that their NPS and related scores have skyrocketed, and they're getting more international customers now because of
Hmm.
that ability to talk to people in their native tongue, even if it's for a
Yeah.
bot, just increases the levels of service that they're able to offer
Yes.
that you wouldn't be able to do
Exactly that.
otherwise. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Exactly that. And we had a customer, small, 50 employees, but geographically and time zone spread across 3 different continents. And actually, they were having calls and they were recording them, transcribing them, sending them out for translation, and then sending all the notes out. I mean, Translator within Teams has helped them massively save time, save money, and just be able to be more collaborative and connected. And that's allowing them to go and enter new markets for the first time. So yeah, a couple of great examples of just thinking about the challenges and how AI can help you there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you mentioned a short while ago, actually, the stat you mentioned around what we call shadow AI. So
Hmm.
employees within an organization using AI tools that aren't
Hmm.
necessarily kind of condoned,
Yeah.
signed off, approved, whatever you
Hmm.
want to say, by the organization. So is this, do you see this as being a problem for SMBs? Are you talking to business owners about what they should be doing about it? What's your approach to
Hmm.
this?
Yeah, so it is. As I said, about 71% of UK employees are using AI tools and that their employer hasn't approved. And actually, our research has shown that nearly 1 in 4 are putting finance-related data into those tools, which is worrying, right? And they do this for a couple of reasons, mostly because it's what they're familiar with in their home life, but also potentially there's no approved option that they've been given and the guidance. So I think, yes, it can be challenging because, if there isn't those parameters of data security around those tools, that can cause problems in your training models, for example, that you don't really want to be training with your own IP and data. So it's really thinking through, and I think probably the steps I would recommend organizations to think about is, assume it's already happening. We've worked with customers where once we've given them visibility into what's happening, they found multiple tools in there that they didn't know about, right? So assume it's happening, and it's not about banning usage or telling those employees off, but getting the visibility of what's going on in your organization is definitely the first step. And
Mm.
then, choose a safe alternative like enterprise AI that will give them the functionality that they want, but wrapped around in that privacy and security that organizations need, that a consumer user doesn't need. And then set a simple policy, and it doesn't have to be long. I sit on the board of a 50-person charity, and we wrote a document that's like a page and a half around these are the tools that we've chosen as an organization. This is when you can use it. This is when, we think that humans need to be signed off on, or these are the kind of the cases where you definitely can't use it. Clarity and working with your teams, with your employees is probably the best guidance there. So yes,
It
and
sounds
hopefully some practical steps.
sounds like very good advice. I mean, the visibility piece is absolutely critical,
Hmm.
right? There's that horrible phrase, you don't know what you don't know, but when you do know it,
Yeah,
using that information to be able to make
exactly.
informed decisions. So, yeah, absolutely. You guys have been running some, I'm going to say this word wrong, but agentathons,
Magenta bombs.
where business owners prototype an AI agent in a day, and it kind of acts as a one-to-one coaching service where someone leaves with an adoption plan. Firstly, how are those going? They sound great. We love that
Hmm.
kind of content ourselves. And secondly, what happens after those sessions? How is it changing what the people that are involved in them are then doing?
Yeah, so they're really new, and we've been piloting them. They have been hugely popular, like oversubscribed, which is fantastic that the demand is there. And what we wanted to achieve with them is, so we deliver them with our partner channel, and essentially what we wanted to do is take customers from I'm interested, but actually AI use cases are still quite abstract for me, into a concrete use case and an outcome that they can walk away that changes the game in terms of their productivity, their business process, or whatever it is that, the use case they come with. And so I think, what's we're seeing with that is that confidence is growing because we teach them with very simple no code, low code tools. They can be business people. They don't have to be technologists. And that's, part of the I guess the attraction of AI is that with LLMs, we can all work in natural language, right? So working with business owners and team members that have, core business challenges that they want to solve and helping them learn how to do that through automation with low code tools that gets them to a very simple outcome, and that could be something like a chatbot that goes into their website, which helps their customers choose a product from their website. It could be thinking about customer inquiries and how you triage those, that sort of thing. A lot of customers ask about. We also have a lot of customers that have, responses to tenders or bids that they do. How do they automate those processes and almost do like a bid writer, for example? So they're far more consistent in their approach. If you've got multiple salespeople or multiple people, responding to bids and tenders, it can be much more consistent in terms of your branding. Sales follow-up and qualification, some finance projects like invoicing and chasing or categorization. So there's various themes that we're starting to see that comes out of that. But I think the nice thing is real business problems and real prototyping. And then the next steps are, hey, I've learned how to do this in this use case. I could probably go away and do it with another idea that we've got in our business. And so the idea is that they become proficient and confident so they can go and replicate that process within their organization with other use cases.
I mean, practicing stuff is the best form of learning, right? Rather than being told.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And once you've got an agent, then you can interface with daily and also potentially share across your organization to ease the burden of work. I think people become more bought in, more confident, and are more likely to go on that change journey around AI.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. You've talked about some of the kinds of problems that people are choosing to solve there. Has there been anything that's kind of been something unexpected that's come out of any of these that you've kind of gone, wow, that's a really interesting idea?
I think the interesting thing is that people don't actually have come with flashy ideas. It's typically those boring things. Like, if you think about your role, everyone has bits of their role that they procrastinate about. It's like the work you like sucks the energy from you. And so it's typically those things of, actually, this is really problematic for my people. This is time consuming, it's boring, and it's repetitive. It's typically there that AI delivers really fast, I would say, more than potentially the big flashy ideas. But a few things are, like I said, we've done chatbots onto websites which have helped guide customers through purchasing. So, for example, we helped a small family distillery really think and help customers choose the right type of gin for the gift. So that was a nice idea. And what was lovely about that is it didn't just recommend products, but it actually got them involved in kind of cocktail recipes and cross-sold into distillery tours and things like that. So that was a really nice way. And that was a family-run business, as I said, 5 people, but still, taking advantage of the power of agents to help augment that customer experience online.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the boring stuff. I mean, it's certainly what I've done.
Yeah,
I've got one. I hate writing reports, so I've got an agent set up to
yeah,
write reports. So I've got something
exactly.
set up to help me build process
Hmm.
maps,
Hmm.
generate proposals, all of that kind of stuff. Where it's kind of it's
Hmm.
essentially documentation. I do not enjoy
Yeah,
it. So let's try and use someone to help me do the bulk of that, and then I'll refine it at the end.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, those agentathons are the kind of the
Hmm.
structured versions
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
this approach. But outside events like that, most leaders, most business owners are being pitched AI solutions every 5 seconds from every direction. I mean, I certainly am. I'm sure you are as well.
Hmm.
How should they decide what's actually worth paying attention to? Because I don't know if this is true, but I read somewhere that there are 300 new AI solutions on the market every single day globally.
Mm.
And you can believe it. I mean, there's so
Hmm.
many small, innovative
Yeah,
organizations
of
popping up.
course.
And of course, they're all fighting for customers, all fighting for market share. It's
Mm.
busy.
Hmm. Yes, you're right. Look, there's AI everywhere. And I think it is hard for customers to kind of fight through that noise. I'd come back to those 4 pillars, to think through before you start with, I'm going to go out to the market and look for AI tools to solve my problem. It's really coming back to the crux of the problem or the challenge that you're trying to solve. And we kind of have a recipe for looking at it that kind of was born out of our own approach internally to AI adoption at Microsoft. Because as you can imagine, we're a huge organization. We still had to go through this change journey. Less choice about tools, but obviously, going through that change journey and that adoption curve that many organizations are now going through. And the first kind of element is really thinking about the people within your organization and the roles that you have and what are they doing and where are the friction points that you can start to bring AI into. and really help them map kind of, the day in the life. So with our salespeople, for example, we mapped what's the day in the life for a seller and where can we start to infuse AI into their day to make those friction points a little bit easier, and to help them spend more time with customers, for example. And then it's really thinking through the processes that you have and almost going back to those kind of lean production processes of where you look at where's the value created. If you're a manufacturing organization, it's on the production floor. If you're a sales organization like us, it's with the sales conversations. So it's where's that value created, and how, again, can I augment that value through. And then lastly, I think it's thinking through, actually, if I had a white piece of paper, blank sheets, would I, design an AI first company with the legacy ideas and processes that I have today? Potentially not. How could I potentially reimagine my organization in an AI first world? Certainly, we did that, from a sales process point of view. We've got a sales team and we've augmented them with digital sellers. So instead of spending their time doing prospecting with potential, data that could be a gold mine but could be a waste of time, actually we use digital salespeople to do that initial prospecting, kind of prioritization, outreach, and engagement. And then as soon as the customer started to engage, we hand it over to a human for them to take them on the rest of the journey. So it's really thinking through kind of where could I actually deliver huge transformation for my organization if I just, kind of took off the shackles of legacy thinking and the ways that we do things today. And sometimes the best way to do that is almost to give it as a project to kind of a little team or a side, project for them to think about. So yeah, a couple of ideas there.
That final point there, I think, is really interesting. Again, I've spoken to quite a few people who sit on both sides of that particular fence. A couple of organisations who've gone full gun down that route and have just
Mm,
completely ripped up their organisational model and gone, right, if we were starting today, what would that look like?
yeah,
And in all of those examples on that side of the fence, what I'm hearing is it's not that they want to remove people from the organisation. They want to streamline and make their organisation more efficient,
exactly.
and then use the people they've got to
Hmm.
create the growth and scale that they want, but without needing to then hire
Yes.
more heads, which is a really interesting way of looking at it. But then I hear it from the other side of the fence where people are like, oh my goodness, I have no idea to where to start. We've got all of this legacy data, all of these legacy systems,
Hmm.
we're in contracts or
Hmm.
blah, 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 blah. Just can't do it now. And it's that kind of, I guess it's appetite for change. It comes back to that human behavior again. It comes back to that as well. There's lots
Yeah.
of variables, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. And I think if you don't know where to start, having, particularly if you're not a technology company, right? Many businesses don't start business to become a technology company. So it's finding a great partner that can help you on that journey, show you the art of the possible, and take you through that, in a way that feels comfortable for you, from, sorting out your data and getting it into the right state, making sure it's protected and secure, and then taking you through the AI journey after that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think there's any misconceptions about AI that you hear from the SMB audience at all? Things that you know not to be true that people maybe think are?
I think not so much misconceptions. I think more just many of them don't understand kind of really what's the art of the possible and actually need help to think that through. They understand what it can do in terms of holiday planning or, creating recipes or whatever it is that they do in their personal life. But I think it's them thinking it through to their specific business and their specific industry and use case. And that's why we're trying to use agentic technology to help provide one-to-one coaching experiences. So on a recent roadshow, we were talking with a range of businesses. And they're like, "Well, I'm a pizza company and in the Liverpool City region. Like, how would I use it?" And they
Hmm.
want specific guidance for them and their use case. And obviously, none of us can scale to talk to every single small business in the UK. So what we've created now is an agentic experience where they can go on and with an agent coach actually get one-to-one coaching on generative AI for their business and their use case. So if they say, I want to, I don't know, sell more pizza to more students in the Liverpool City region, how would I do that? Okay, or take them through, this is how you might build a social media campaign. Let's think and do the prompts together and build the prompts. And so they can go away with a lovely action plan at the end of it as to, what they do. So that's how we're getting to that, because I think we've got to use technology in scalable ways to help the breadth of the UK ecosystem.
I think that's a really cute idea because the less AI literate that people are, they may not
Hmm.
know you can to do most of that yourself by just going and using it the right way. You're just guiding them on that journey. It's like, if you do this and if you ask these questions, then you will get, and that's, I think it's a
Yeah.
really, yeah.
And it's then for them, it's starting with one use case, one simple thing that they can do, differently tomorrow, but in that confidence, and it will grow from there.
So we're nearly out of time. So I will finish
Mm.
with one final question.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
and it's a tricky one. I'm going to ask you to put on your Nostradamus hat
Hmm.
um, and try and predict what's going to change for SMBs in the UK in the next 12 months, to do with AI, obviously, that
Hmm.
most of them aren't ready for. What's your big prediction?
I think it's the agentic AI piece. I think we're all quite familiar with that system, as I said, but it's almost where agents can go off and completely own a business process for you, but without human oversight. So if I'm a retailer selling home decor, for example, and I sell white paint and I'm out of stock, it takes for me to notice that. It takes for me to kind of place an order. That's a whole system or a process that could be automated and taken care of by agents. And I guess it's less of a technology shift, but it's a mindset shift of actually giving off work to agents, and the fact that they can completely run these processes for me. I can sign them off. So, for example, if my order of paint gets over a certain threshold, I want to have sign off on that before the purchase order gets placed, for example. But it's then thinking, well, actually, I could have a digital employee that works alongside my human employee. And we get into the realms then of, well, how do you manage, digital employees? How do you govern them? How do you manage their life cycle, for example? And actually, it's a really interesting thing of, people that are entering the workforce today, you may not have given them a people manager job, but you could give them an agent manager job easily. So I think it's really around, the whole possibilities that agents bring us, and actually how can smaller businesses go on that journey by starting with some very simple agents, whether they're built agents that are out of the box, as we talked about, translator agents, for example, things like that that are very simple that they can work with and get value today, and start to go on that journey towards the autonomous agents, because they are coming, and they're here even today. Businesses are using them. So I think it's around thinking, how can we go on that journey? How can we start today by getting ourselves ready for that, and really changing our mindset to actually in the future we're going to have a world where humans and agents work alongside each other as team members, as co-collaborators, to create value for customers.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've heard so many people talking about rewriting org charts to include agents on them these days.
Exactly. Yes,
So
indeed.
the agents are coming, and I think that's
The
wonderful
agents are going.
for us to have this conversation.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the time today, Ali. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
of
it.
course.
Best of luck with everything you're doing with SMB
Thank you.
and adoption with Microsoft UK, and we're looking forward to working with you on that journey over the coming 12 months as well. And yeah, have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, John. Nice to see you.